Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're taking a really fascinating look at early childhood pedagogy by walking through an explainer of Crimson Grove's Elementary Education Explorer. We're going to unpack a specific lesson straight from their curriculum, one that zeroes in on the E vowel sound. But rather than just staring at the letters themselves, we're going to analyze exactly how they structure this whole learning experience to completely maximize a student's retention and, honestly, their enthusiasm too. To set the stage, the curriculum kicks off with this incredibly powerful daily affirmation. Every day, I learn something new. Now, starting a phonics lesson this way, it isn't just about feeling good. It actually sets a positive psychological baseline and totally encourages a growth mindset. By stating this out loud right before tackling the complex stuff, students enter this wonderful, low-stakes, high-curiosity headspace. It's the absolute perfect mindset to cultivate before jumping into the rigorous academic material. Okay, here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll be hitting 1. Meet the E sound, 2. The featured words chart, 3. Sentences that spark stories, 4. Interactive practice exercises, 5. The phonics word hunt, and finally, 6. The tricky twist. This progression, it's literally a masterclass in scaffolding, efficiently guiding that pedagogical journey from foundational theory all the way down to highly engaging interactive application. Let's jump right into section 1, Meet the E sound, building the foundation. Right out of the gate, the curriculum introduces this concept of a vowel team. And honestly, in the English language, teaching letters as a unified team is just a brilliant strategy. It helps young learners conceptualize that two totally distinct symbols, E and A, can stand right next to each other and work seamlessly to produce just one single sound. For today's specific lesson, we're targeting that long E sound. Notice how the lesson utilizes repetitive vocalization here, prompting the student to say it over and over. The E team says E, E, E. Now, this isn't just repetition for the sake of it, right? It purposefully builds auditory memory and physical familiarity with that vowel sound. By vocalizing it multiple times, the student effectively bridges the gap between visual recognition and verbal execution. It's a total game changer. Once that fundamental sound is totally locked in, we move right into section 2, the featured words chart, expanding our vocabulary. So this part of the lesson relies heavily on highly familiar, tangible nouns and concepts. Look closely at the specific selection of vocabulary here. We've got words like leaf, beach, and teacher, right alongside super common verbs like clean, read, and eat. These are words young readers absolutely already have in their verbal vocabulary, and connecting a brand new complex spelling rule to a concept they already understand, that is crucial for making the decoding process actually feel relevant and meaningful to them. Then, the second half of the vocabulary chart introduces a slight but really deliberate escalation in difficulty. The source provides these excellent examples that subtly raise the stakes. By introducing consonant blends right before or after the vowel team, like the stra and stream or the spa and speak, the curriculum is testing the student's ability to maintain their focus on that core E sound, even while navigating slightly more complex surrounding letter structures. Moving right along to section 3, sentences that spark stories, putting words into action. Because, as any educator knows, isolated vocabulary is essentially useless without context, watch how the pedagogical concept of scaffolding is brilliantly executed here. The lesson moves systematically from a simple phoneme at step 1, the E sound, to a full morpheme at step 2 with the word teacher, and then finally scales all the way up to full syntax at step 3, our teacher read us a story. Oh, and it's definitely worth noting they embedded a compound challenge right into that sentence by using 2 EA words working together, teacher and read. Super smart. And we see that exact same scaffolding pattern repeated with the word stream, culminating in the sentence, ducks swam across the stream. Using these highly visual sentences aids significantly in reading comprehension. It basically ensures students aren't just, mechanically decoding sounds on a page, but are actively grasping meaning and building a real narrative in their minds. It completely brings the phonics lesson to life. All right, next up, we dive into section 4, interactive practice exercises, the Eager Learner Challenge. This is where the lesson shifts gears from passive absorption to active recall. The curriculum introduces these interactive challenges starting with a really straightforward fill-in-the-blank exercise. By removing the vowel team from a familiar word that begins with DR and ends in M, the exercise totally tests the student's orthographic mapping. It forces their brain to retrieve the correct vowel team from memory just to bridge the gap between those consonants. And by completing the word dream, this mechanism forces the learner to actively apply that EA rule they literally just absorbed. It effectively shifts them from the role of a passive reader right into the role of an active speller. Next, the lesson provides another fill-in-the-blank opportunity, but this time it utilizes context clues to help the reader infer the word. When framing this as a delicious dessert-themed word starting with CR and ending in M, it beautifully bridges the gap between visual context and phonetic spelling, which requires a much higher-level synthesis. Spot on. It's cream. That visual reinforcement of the completed word confirms the student's choice instantly. And that creates this immediate, deeply rewarding feedback loop that builds immense confidence in young readers as they navigate these tricky exercises. From there, the interactive practice pivots to a multiple-choice format. Now here, the student must differentiate between words starting with the exact same initial consonant. In this specific case, the letter L, for leaf, log, and lamp. This naturally demands a significantly higher cognitive load than the previous fill-in-the-blank exercises. Because by forcing the student to select leaf over phonetically distinct words like log or lamp, the exercise really sharpens their ability to isolate those medial vowel sounds. It forces deep intentional processing, ensuring they aren't just guessing based on the very first letter they happen to see. Let's move to the next pedagogical challenge from the curriculum, Section 5, the Phonics word hunt, spotting patterns. In this activity, learners are challenged to scan a full page of randomized words and circle only these 5 specific targets. Now, visual crowding is a very common hurdle for new readers. So by asking them to filter out the incorrect vowel combinations and lock onto the EA spelling within a really dense field of text, this hunt explicitly trains their visual tracking skills. And this kind of pattern recognition, it directly correlates to increased reading fluency and speed. Finally, we arrive at Section 6, the tricky twist, rule breakers. This serves as a critical, advanced teaching tip included for educators at the very end of the Crimson Grove lesson, and the pedagogical choice here is just fascinating. On the left side, we have the established rule we've been practicing, the long E sound in words like meat and clean. But on the right side, the curriculum actually acknowledges the messy reality of English orthography by introducing tricky exceptions, like bread making a short E sound or steak making a long A sound. The source smartly saves these absolute rule breakers for the very end, ensuring the primary rule is deeply ingrained and the student's confidence is built up before introducing the inevitable contradictions of our language. This curriculum really illustrates a fantastic balance, right? It teaches strict phonetic rules while adequately preparing students for a language that is just absolutely full of messy exceptions. So I want to leave you with a provocative thought to consider regarding early education. How do we best introduce young, eager minds to the rigid rules of grammar while simultaneously teaching them that in English, rules are very often meant to be broken? Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and we will definitely see you next time.